Kelly Arnold is going to introduce our very special guest today.
All right, well, thank you, Johns. I'm going to have a quick introduction. Probably by the time I get done, though, the vote count for the governor's race will be changed. If you don't know, today they started releasing by county the advanced mail-in ballot final numbers. These aren't the provisionals, those are next week, but by 5 o'clock we should have a better idea what the unofficial result will be for the hour. But anyways, Jim Joice is our executive director for the Kansas Republican Party. We hired him in March. He comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience, specifically on the campaign side of things, something that we knew would be very valuable for the party going into this election cycle, knowing how difficult it's going to be. He has experience both in Washington, D.C. and in Kansas, working for Congressman Kevin Yoder. He's worked with Senate leadership. And most recently, he was campaign manager for Mark Hutton's campaign for governor. The only blemish I've seen on his record is the fact that he's a KU grad. So, but with that, I will call it. Yeah, exactly. I'll call it Jim Joice. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Kelly. Thanks. Rock chalk. For those of you that I haven't met yet, my name is Jim Joice. I'm the executive director of the Republican Party, and if we haven't met, please make sure we do after this. As we saw from this most recent cycle, every vote matters. We need every bit of engagement as possible. So anyone who wants to get involved, please reach out to me, find me afterwards, and we'll get that ball rolling. So, what a week. Where to start? So I'll say this, John. I don't think I've ever talked for 50 minutes, and if I have, I guarantee people didn't appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it pretty brief, and then we'll open it up to a Q&A because I really want to know what's on your guys' mind and answer your guys' questions. So a couple weeks ago, feels like a couple years ago, John reached out to me with the idea of coming to speak on August 10th to the Pachyderm. It was a great idea at the time. I was like, yeah, sure, that's perfect. That's exactly what we need to do. We're going to all rally behind our gubernatorial candidate. We're going to get this ball rolling. We know exactly what our field looks like. This is going to be awesome. This is perfect. This is exactly what we needed to do. So I think you all know how that went out. So we're still here 3 days after the primary. We still don't have a gubernatorial nominee, and it doesn't look like we're going to have one anytime soon, but that's all right. That's not going to slow us down. So far, just a little update on where we are for the gubernatorial. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Kelly. Currently, Chris Kobach is up 216 votes.
Yeah.
Yep. And so the counties have between August 13th and August 20th, or I believe they started already for canvassing. And then for any request for a recount needs to be made by August 17th at 5 o'clock. So I'd all but guarantee that, take it to the bank. So it's been a pretty bizarre scenario, absolutely. So I figured I'd talk about some of the other weird things that we've had go on here. So Kelly mentioned March, so it's about four to 5 months. It's been a whirlwind. It's pretty wild. So first, Andy from New York. So we kicked off a gentleman from New York off the gubernatorial ballot. And a little funny story about this guy. So I'm watching the primary results come in on August 7th. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm sitting on pins and needles, and I get a call from New York. So I figure it's the New York Times, and no offense to them, I'm not going to answer that while we still don't have results yet, and we still, to this day, don't have results. So I let it go to voicemail. I get a text from that same number a couple minutes later, and it's Andy, and he says, "Hey Jim, you probably completely forgot who I am." I did, absolutely. I had no idea who he was. And he asked if he could give a concession speech. So I'm glad we have an admirer from afar in New York in Andy, and we won't forget about him. He's the first person I've ever kicked off of a ballot, so he'll always have a special place in my heart. And we booted, no pun intended, Vernon Supreme from the ballot as well, a gentleman who wears a boot on his head. So that was another interesting one that we've had so far. We have a woman who's running to be the top attorney in the state of Kansas who is accepting Bitcoin as campaign contributions. So if the currency isn't regulated, I imagine the FEC isn't all right with that, but I'm no lawyer. She apparently is. And then, of course, here in the 4th Congressional District, we have 2 Ron Esses's. So you really can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's pretty wild. It's been a whirlwind. I'm pretty confident that once this cycle's over, I can say there's just about nothing I haven't seen. So it's been pretty wild. So I figure I start with a State House update. Regardless of where you land on the issues, I think what we've seen with the past 2 legislative sessions in Topeka, that having an effective majority in both chambers of the House and the Senate, it's pivotal in the type of legislation that's passed. And we're not ignoring that at the Kansas Republican Party. So one thing that we're proud of and that we take great pride in is that we win up and down the ballot. We're not just focused on the gubernatorial. So I know people think that, we might be slowed down because we don't have a nominee. That's couldn't be farther from the truth. We're full speed ahead because every single race matters, and the more local you go, the better they are at turning people out. So to be quite honest, focusing on the local races and the House district races, it proves to have better turnout. So we're focused on that. We're not taking anything for granted. So where we're at now, so we have 85 seats currently. I'd say a safe bet is 87. You can probably take that one to the bank. And then an aggressive count would be 96. So I really do think that's possible. I wouldn't be a strategist if I was going to tell you exactly which races I think will provide those results. But I can tell you that we're working hand in hand with our national party, our state Senate, our House, our county leadership to make sure we elect as many Republicans as possible. And for those of you who are a little curious why I said state Senate, we do have one state Senate race up for grabs this year. It's Senate District 13, Senator Richard Hildebrand in Southeast Kansas. Great guy. We've got razor thin margins in the Senate, so we need to make sure we send him back there. He replaced Jake LaTurner, who is now our state treasurer, Jake LaTurner. So we're proud of both of them, and we need to make sure we get him back because our Kansas Senate is a little bit like our United States Senate, and the majority is kind of in name only. So we need to make sure that we bump up those numbers, and for now, all we can do is focus on the 13th district. As far as the United States Congress goes, the U.S. House, that's kind of where all the action is and all the attention is nationally. So the Democrats need 24 seats to take back the House. With a president who is currently in his first midterm who is polling under 50%, and we can talk about if those numbers are true or not, but those are the numbers that are out there. So historically speaking, the average is you lose a little bit over 30 seats. So to think that Democrats pick up 24 is not far-fetched at all. And I'd also remind you that 10 of those 24 are in California. And I don't plan on counting on California. I don't know about you guys. So we are, we could not be more focused on sending 4 congressmen back to DC and making sure that we keep control of the House. And the reason this is so important is because the majority of the House picks the Speaker, and the next Speaker of the House will pretty much choose the trajectory we're on as a country. And are we going to continue down, or are we going to continue on this positive trajectory with more money in your wallet, a booming economy, consumer optimism sky high, or are we going to go back? And are we going to have Nancy Pelosi do this? And why that's so important is because the Democrats have shifted so far left. They're really stumbling over themselves to see who can get to full-blown socialism first. They've gone from reasonable disagreements on policy to nonstop pandering to the loudest voice in the room. It's truly pretty incredible. And socialism has never been closer to home than it is today here in Kansas. Bernie Sanders was here. Bernie Sanders was in Kansas. That is insane. That is wild. And we have James Thompson to thank for that. And so astonishingly enough, his radically liberal policies are not his main disqualifying factor. I'm sure you guys saw recently and heard about the couple battery issues that we have. I know his campaign is calling these smears and this and that. Look, I'm no lawyer. I'm a Kansas kid. I know right from wrong, and this is wrong. This man is wrong. He's wrong for Kansas, and he's wrong for this district. So to me, this isn't an R or a D thing. This isn't partisan. This isn't political. This is human. When I talk to the National Party folks, when I talk to the RNC, when I talk to the NRCC, when I talk to leaders all throughout this country, everyone tells me, Jim, Kansas is Republican through and through. You guys are born and raised on it. You eat it for breakfast. That's great. I love it. Love the sentiment. That's fun. But I disagree. I really do. I disagree. Kansas is a state with a strong moral compass, is what it is. Kansas is a state that believes in personal accountability, a state that believes that a parent knows better than a bureaucrat, and a state that believes in and respects individual freedom. Those things just happen to align with the Republican Party, and that's a big difference. This is not a partisan state. It's a state with a moral compass that happens to align with what the Republican Party is doing, and we're proud of that. That moral compass is why I have no doubt that the people of Kansas, the people of the 4th District, the people of Wichita, and the people of this room will send Congressman Ron Estes back to D.C. with overwhelming margins. This is our time. This is our chance to take a stand for that compass, to say no. This type of a violent past does not represent me, it doesn't represent you, and it doesn't represent this district, and it most certainly won't represent it in Congress. I hate to harp on the negative because so often in our political discourse, we have reasons not to vote for someone. Congressman Estes is the epitome of a reason to vote for someone. This man is a great man. He is doing such a great job. His staff are staples in the community and truly do have service hearts. You guys are rock stars, Dalton, Austin. If there's any more of you here that I'm not seeing right now, you guys are so awesome. You're a great team to work with. I really couldn't ask for a better team to work with. And if there's anything that we can ever do on behalf of the party or myself, let me know. We're here for you. And I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone in this room, but Team Estes is just such an easy team to get behind. They're good folks. They're doing the right things for the right reasons. And oftentimes office holders can kind of be, you can only be as good as your staff for a little bit of it. And I think this is a pretty great crew to be tied to. I really do. So kudos to Congressman Estes for picking such a great brain trust, a great team of people. And we all appreciate what you guys do. So tip of the cap. Also, I ran into Dalton this morning, and he's such a humble guy, he didn't even mention it to me, but today is his birthday. So I would like to say happy birthday to Dalton Glasscock. Everyone make sure to wish him a happy birthday, and as a present, go ahead and commit to knock either 100 doors or make 500 calls for Congressman Ron Estes. We need all of your help. My rant is over. I promise. I told you it'd be quick. It'd be quick. And I'll wrap up with just one more thing. If we've learned one thing from this election cycle, it's that every single vote matters. Your voice matters. Your vote matters. We literally had an election won by one vote. One vote. So please, when you go to the polls in November, bring people with you. Bring 5 people. Bring 10. Go to the grocery store. Go to your pool. Go to your church. Tell people, ask them, do you like more money in your pocket? Do you like the way the economy is going? Consumer optimism is sky high. If you like that, then come with me, come to the polls, and make sure you vote for Congressman Ron Estes, and you vote Republican up and down the ballot. The stakes really couldn't be any higher. They really couldn't. If we lose the House, the direction that this country is going and what we stand for is going to change very significantly. So that's all I got. I'd like to open it up to questions and also suggestions of things you think the party can be doing better, as long as it's not about this speech. It's been a wild week. I don't pretend to be good at this stuff, so please take it easy on me there. But definitely, reach out to me. Let me know what's going on. Let me know what you think. My door is always open. We don't pretend to have all the answers, and I know that only together we can really be as successful as we possibly can. So the sky's the limit when we're working together, and I look forward to a successful election year with y'all and many more to come.
Thank you for coming, Jim. So we've seen, and especially this last election cycle, that the Democrats like to play the game of we're Republicans. Not related to Democrats.
Leading.
Yes. So how do we keep our Republican Party Republican?
I guess could you rephrase that question?
How do we combat that?
Oh, okay, sure. So it's a grasping at straws type of thing. If we didn't have any seats, I'd do the same thing. Where is Ron Estes? Where is Kevin Yoder? Where is everyone? It's a simple tactic. It's Bush League, to be quite honest. I don't think they really even want to engage in the issues that many times. It's just to get press, and unfortunately it works. But I'm not really too worried about it, to be quite honest.
Appreciate your sharing with us. Can you talk to us a little bit about the turnout this deal, and maybe any trends that you saw happening
in Kansas, particular, or
Kansas?
Okay, so
Well, what are our trends?
Use that term lightly. So nationally, turnout doesn't really look too promising. We're seeing that in the special elections, but we're not really seeing that here in Kansas. If you look at the vote totals, we had overwhelming support and extremely outnumbered the Democrats. And then remember that in the general election, they're going to be splitting votes with Greg Orman as well. And that's the thing that, we all have to remember and thank Senator Pat Roberts for in 2014, is he did such a good job introducing Greg Orman to the Republican Party and to the Republican Party electorate. So the Democrats are going to have to spend on him. We won't really, and he's going to chip away at them. So our numbers look good. They can certainly be better, and they will be. Now that we're into the general election, we're working together with the National Party, the RGA, the NRCC, the RNC, all these different organizations that are going to be sending money and funds into Kansas to drive turnout. So what you saw is really just, it's just the beginning. We're just getting started. But they're promising numbers, to be quite honest. And Democrats' turnout was only up in municipal, what am I trying to say? Larger cities, I'm blanking real quick, but in rural areas, their vote turnout was down and ours was up. So good numbers, they're encouraging, but there's always room to do better. And especially being a Republican in Kansas, we have 85 seats. We have the House, the Senate, the governor, every single statewide, the United States Congress, United States Senate, and the president, and about to be the Supreme Court. So it's easy to be complacent, but that's not something that we're going to do, and that's not the culture that we're striving for at the Kansas Republican Party. So we're always striving to be better. There's always room for improvement, and that's why I'm saying, my door is always open. We're striving to be the best we possibly can, and that's not an end goal. That's a continuous mindset.
So we've had, I'm thinking of 2 Republican contests, governor and for 2nd District Congress, where there were quite a few viable candidates. And of course, the governor, we don't know the result of it. But in the 2nd District, a candidate won with, I think, 29% of the vote, I think.
That's 26.
It was 26, okay. So do you think, and up in the 2nd District, some people on Facebook, and these are statewide activists, are saying we need to control access to the Republican ballot. But there are some other ways that we might get better results. I'm thinking of ranked choice voting or approval voting. Do you think that we should start to look at things like that in Kansas?
So anything like that, I'm going to leave up to the Kansas State Legislature. They were elected. That's their job if they want to change the policy. Anything on behalf of the Republican Party, I don't think anyone wants to be at a point where a party is choosing who can and cannot run for office. That's not what America's about, and that's not what we're about.
I appreciate that comment about not wanting to regulate who's on the ballot. Can we maybe agree we want to keep the kids off the ballot?
So that has been fixed.
We're moving on.
That has been fixed. The law just hasn't gone into effect. But I don't want to point a finger at these young men. Anytime we have young people getting involved in politics, and especially the Kansas Republican Party, we should be welcoming them with open arms, not blaming them on anything. So kudos to those guys. It takes a lot of courage to put your name on a ballot, and I know they showed up to all the events, so I love it. I love seeing them there. But yeah, they won't be on the ballot next year or in 2 years.
It's so good to see you on board. Why don't you explain to the members, like if somebody wants to donate to the federal side, how they do that in the party, and to the state side so they can actually earmark where they want it to go. And why don't you explain some of the challenges we're facing in the 2nd and 3rd congressional district? Because you've done a great job talking about ours, but it may be time to circle the wagons, so to speak.
Sure. Definitely challenging districts, and we knew they were going to be that way. There's no surprise there. So first, simple as telling me state or federal, as long as it depends on if it's an individual or if it's a business, and that kind of depends on which accounts we can put things into. But it's pretty simple to donate to the party, so I'd encourage all of you to do it. I'd be happy to walk out of here with checks. So we'll start with the 3rd district. That's my guy, Congressman Yoder. I know the district pretty well. It's a tough district. Hillary Clinton won that district by 1%, and it's tough. That's all there is to say about it. He has to walk a fine line, and he does a great job representing the district. I couldn't be more proud of Congressman Yoder and what he's doing. He's one of the hardest working guys I know. He truly is, and he's crazy smart. The way he is on appropriations, and that's why he's running one of the House subcommittees for building the wall. So Congressman Yoder's doing a great job. His staff has been there since day one. They've really helped people in the district, and that's the type of stuff that carries you through on elections. It's not really so much what you're doing in DC, it's the presence you have in the district and the way you interact with people. And he is an absolute class act. His staff are class acts. Couldn't be more proud of him. And we are going to do absolutely everything we can to help the congressman. And I know that that comes from the White House down. So we are super proud of Congressman Yoder, and we're going to get him back there. I don't have a doubt about it. It's going to be tough, but that's what it's about. You know, it's not supposed to be easy, and no one ever said it was going to be. So the 2nd district, again, one we knew was going to be happening. So Lynn Jenkins is stepping down. She has been an absolute rock star. You know, I don't think we could thank her enough for what she's done for the district, the state of Kansas. She's been great. She's been awesome. Paul Davis, a formidable challenger, definitely. He's been raising money. The Democrats made sure that he didn't get primaried, so he didn't have to say anything too wild, because their base really loves that. But we remember Paul Davis, and I think the people of the 2nd district do as well. And Donald Trump won the district by 19 points. It's an R9. It's turnout, and we're going to have the funds to drive that turnout, and we're going to make sure that people remember who Paul Davis is. And you know, he's got quite a vote record that he's going to have to run away from. But that's what he's trying to do. I mean, he's trying to do the Connor Lamb playbook, and we know it, and we're playing chess with him. And you know, it'll be an interesting 90-day sprint.
President Trump loves to travel.
The
I
Donald.
believe he's going to make at least 2 stops in Kansas because of what you just mentioned. You know, the governor's tough race and then the second whatever. What do you have to say about that?
You know, I won't speak definitively on behalf of the White House. I'll allow them to do that. I don't want to step on their toes, but I would be pretty surprised if we don't see the president, the vice president, and House leadership come into Kansas more than once.
Let's let Steve on. Come on. Steve, tell us about your election.
Oh, you want me to talk about my election?
Yes.
You want to give me a microphone?
Yes.
Thought you were getting off?
Oh my gosh. Thanks, Todd. Start the clock. Okay. Talk a little bit about my election. I'm incredibly humbled, excited for the opportunity to represent the 74th District. I won my election to a 12-year incumbent who has served more than 20 years in an elected position. You know, over the past 3 or 4 years, he's gone much more modern in his voting, and as a result of getting out there and really working hard. And I was making a light joke about, you know, knocking doors, by the way, because I think we counted somewhere just short of 3,000 doors that we knocked on, and even went back and re-knocked doors in a number of towns. So my district, it was interesting to see, there was about 4,000, just short of 4,000 votes cast. We won by 10% of the votes, so 400 votes, and which is more than the governor, kind of crazy. But, you know, nervous the whole night watching the numbers come in, but when they came in, you know, we look at Heston, for example. Heston's my hometown of 21 years. It's been his hometown of more than 21 years. And so we put a lot of effort into that election and into that run. And we won that town only by 30 votes. So, you know, ever since this election has happened, and I've had conversations with people, anybody that thinks that one vote doesn't count has got to look at Kansas, has got to look at some of these representative races. Now, we won by 400 overall, but those splits are so narrow. And I think what we're seeing, at least we've seen in 7 of the 12 contested races where you had really a moderate versus a conservative, it swung moderate. And the House is going back, or it swung conservative, excuse me, and the House is taking that conservative turn. And I'm absolutely grateful to be part of it. It's pretty crazy. We'll just go with that. So
It's going to be a good year for Republicans. Thank you. You're doing a great job. I'd also, John, real quick, if I may, I'd also like to mention, because I know sometimes we get a little spoiled, but every single person who's still up here who has a tough general election, you know, make sure to work with Congressman Estes' office. They do a really good job at helping everyone within the 4th District win races. And it's something that, you know, in Kansas, I know when I was with Congressman Yoder, we took great pride in that. But that's not something that you see in many states or really anywhere. So we're spoiled, but make sure to take advantage of that because they've got a great staff and they'll be able to help you out. And teamwork makes the dream work on this one.
Well, and I would echo that sentiment exactly because I don't have a general opponent, which is pretty great. And the first question I was asked is, what do I do now? Well, I'm going to step a little bit to the south and I'm going to help Steve Kelly, our Republican, who's running against Tim Hodge, the Democrat, win victory in November. And that's what each one of us need to be thinking about. It's not hard to get a list and to go out and knock on doors. So what, you get thrown off a porch or two. It's kind of fun, really. You just smile and you move on. Because at the next door, you've got a lady, this literally happens. You gave me a microphone. I go to one door, and this lady comes down and she challenges me on her front porch, and she hands me a stack of mail like this. And it's all of the positive, the negative. The number of mail that went into my campaign was absolutely insane. And she says, I can't believe you're doing this and you're smearing this guy. And I'm like, well, first of all, it's not me. Because people tend to forget that PACs have free reign to do whatever they see fit. It's not paid for by me, I didn't do it. So second of all, what I was doing was calling in question his voting record. And she says, well, I just can't vote for you because of this. I'm like, so be it, that's all right. I go to the next door, and the lady literally is hugging me. She's like, I'm so excited that you're running. I'm so excited that you're going to represent our district. Yeah, that's what it's about, right? Yeah, throwing off a porch, but there's a lot of appreciation out there for the work we're doing. So get out, find your candidate, and help them knock on doors. It's easy to do.
I will always help connect you to those candidates as well.
This is actually for Stephen and you. What I would like to know, in fact, I talked to Roger about this. Roger had 0 TV advertising. He did radio, mailers, and of course, I think he knocked on, what, 100,000 doors? So what I'd like to know, hopefully I won't get opposition in the future, but with the internet, with the death of television, local newspapers, all those other things, I hope our party is really looking at these races, in this cycle in particular, to see what type of advertising is most effective. Like, for example, is it just walking and knocking on doors?
Absolutely.
With some mailer support, things like that. So could you comment to that and let us know what you're doing to sort of analyze these races so future candidates will have a better idea of what they need to be focusing on?
That's a great question. Nothing will ever beat knocking on a door. Person-to-person voter contact is what it's all about. In like soon-to-be Representative Owens was mentioning, that's the fun of it, is getting to look people in the eye and know that you're going to make their life better, and they believe in the fact that you are going to do that, and that's pretty awesome, and that's really what it's all about. As far as social media trends and things like that, so sure, social media is kind of becoming the new way to reach the voters, to get your message out there, but it's not necessarily the most effective as far as getting votes. So TV is still going to be the best way to go about that. And then a great example is Josh Fahey. I mean, he said he was running the 21st century campaign that was only digital. He got blown out of the water. I mean, absolutely smoked. I didn't expect him to be beat that bad, but that's what you get. Yeah, I mean, you got to get on TV, and that's how you reach the most people.
Well,
especially in the 2nd and 3rd districts. So that's going to be huge in those two.
That was one of the questions, actually, one of the forums, is how do we reach that 20, 30, and 40-year-old demographic? And for me, I'm a little bit of a unique situation because I had an 18, a 16, and a 13-year-old. And my daughter got to register to vote just in time to vote for me, which was really cool, awesome opportunity. But how do we reach those people? How do we motivate them? Social media is huge. It's huge in getting your message to them. It's huge in, in actually being able to communicate. I mean, I love my children, but they'll be sitting in the seat behind me with their friend texting each other, okay? Their brains work totally different than our brains do. And while it doesn't make sense to me, it makes sense to them. Knocking on doors, by far, I would agree 100%. I had a lot of help knocking doors. My wife and kids knocked Heston for me the first time, and I had a great friend that knocked a ton of doors with me. At the end of the day, they may not say, I support you, I'm going to vote for you when you knock on their door, but they see you, you're sweating your rear end off, you're covered in sweat, you got a towel hanging out of your pocket, it's crazy. But knocking doors is the one thing that I will harp on time and time again for any candidate that wants to run for office. You just can't beat it.
And then, as far as millennials, speaking as one, they're a little harder to get. They don't really care too much. So those are strategic initiatives that we're rolling out as the Kansas Republican Party. So we have coalition group building and things like that we're doing to strategically target different demographics and populations. And part of it is ever expanding, ever evolving. We truly do have the superior product. I mean, if you just look at what the just the Republican Party in general stands for, should sell like wildfire. I mean, it's a great product. So all we have to do is message it correctly and get it out there. So we're looking forward to do that.
Yeah, the left and the socialists have our schools, and they got a stranglehold on them. Is there any way that you can see of getting capitalism or a Republican club into the high schools long before these people reach voting age? Because by the time they hit voting age, they're already brainwashed on socialism.
So there are Republican and conservative groups in almost all the high schools and colleges, and that's really kind of your bread and butter for campaigns. They knock doors. They're good at it. They're hard workers, and they need the experience. So I mean, Congressman Yoder has a staff of 60 people plus, and a decent chunk of them are high school and college kids. So they are engaged. They are there, but certainly we need to do a better job reaching out to them, and that's part of the strategic initiatives that we're rolling out.
Well, you didn't ask me, but you gave me anyway because you gave me a microphone today. You got to change the narrative when it comes to our young folks, right? So I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years. One of my huge platform issues is we've got to build Kansas from within Kansas. Giving millions of dollars to big corporations to relocate here, it's not where the money needs to go. The effort needs to go in building entrepreneurship and creating business here. Heston is a great example of that with Excel and AGCO that both started as individual companies, individual people building a company that now have 2 of the top 25 largest employers in the Wichita metro area. That narrative has to change in high school as it relates to entrepreneurship. It's not what are you going to be when you grow up, it's what are you going to build? What are you going to create? What are you going to invent that is going to change your narrative away from the status quo of I'm going to go work for a big corporation because pensions don't exist anymore. So, we've got to start changing that, and that's a communication and something you're going to hear a lot from me over the next 2 years if anybody's crazy enough to give me a microphone.
Never again.
I know there's a lot of talk about, winning the larger county, larger population counties in Kansas, Central County, Johnson County, Wyandotte, and so forth. But there are some who said that rural Kansas will actually win the races. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? And do you
2014, yeah. So Paul Davis won, I believe, Douglas, Shawnee, and Sedgwick. Did he win Sedgwick County? No. Maybe not Sedgwick, but Sam was losing it until the votes came in from out west. So yeah, I mean, we're a rural state, we're an agribusiness state, and the ag vote is huge, and that's why the Kansas Farm Bureau endorsement holds so much weight. So you can't forget them. You absolutely can't forget them. And people in corners of the state feel forgotten, and when you have a message that resonates with them and you just show up as half of the battle, they really appreciate that, and they'll show it at the ballot box. We don't take any vote for granted.
Last time you were here, we were chit-chatting after the meeting, and you were talking about your vision for the future for some of the parties, ideas and things that you're, and as a millennial, we're going to challenge you to help us understand what your vision is. No,
Trying to get me in trouble.
No pressure.
Well, I believe we were talking about the new initiatives that we were rolling out. So if I can remember correctly off the top of my head, we have a new comms, data, digital, finance, political, and I'm forgetting one, plans that we were rolling out. So for the most part, it's just professionalizing the party. So we do have a North Star that we're heading towards, and we're pretty excited about what that looks like. But at the very beginning, what you have to do is just make sure you have the right processes in order and you're doing things the right way. And really just making sure that we're running as a professional operation and we're doing the right things for the right reasons. And then we can move forward to, actually heading towards the North Star. But we're getting there, certainly.
Another really tight race was here in Central County with our Commissioner Richard Ranzow. So I'd like to let him take a few moments and talk about his race.
It was a tough race. It was very close. We still have to go through provisionals next week, but with 87 up, I think we're probably okay. But outspent 5-1. We did knocked on a few doors ourselves, and went out there and talked the message of conservatism, and in the end, we were able to win. Now, can't have people take the next election, the general election, for granted, because my district is the toughest district when it comes to Republican beating a Democrat. And my winner was the opening act. We and Bernie Sanders and Ocasio came to town. She actually did the music, and she's posted some stuff, pictures, and a post about some National Socialist organization. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. On one hand, she talks about focusing on entrepreneurs, but then she's posting socialist stuff. Well, under socialism, there are no entrepreneurs. Okay? There is no chamber of commerce. There is whatever the government tells you there is. And so, you know, and Thompson, I think he said at that rally, the Democrats need to embrace the socialist message. So we've got him, we've got my opponent, we've got another lady that's associated with all that, that's running to get Pete's mic term. So these are issues that I think, do we want a socialist in any position here in Kansas to be elected and be able to use that as a sounding board and then move forward and up? Let's not let that happen anywhere.
So when you talk about you know, messaging to the younger generation about the differences between parties, socialism, you can only be what the government allows you to be. Being a conservative or Republican Party, you can be anything you want, and that's the freedom, and that's the sexy part of it.
It seems like the press enters into how people are represented. Some, and I don't know if the Republicans are doing as good a job with the press to get that message more equalized, whether their message just doesn't resonate with the public that the press is aiming at. So can you talk a little bit about what you're doing or how you're thinking about that and what your thoughts are on that?
Comms plan. That's the one I forgot. Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, probably outside of Topeka leadership and the federal delegation and our statewide delegations who have paid staff to do this stuff, our messaging is pretty awful. And we don't come into situations prepared or with a desired goal of what we're going to get after an interview or anything like that. So that's another part of what we plan on providing at the Republican Party is strategic messaging for our candidates and for our electeds to make sure that we're all on message, we're all doing the same thing. And then when it needs to be, we have different branches of the party that send different messages to help maybe lay down a foundation or to help bounce off of each other. So strategic comms is a game changer, and that's something that we're going to be implementing absolutely.
There's, the governor's race is not completed, but if Kobach does win, will he have a tougher chance hitting Laura Kelly because he's farther to the right where the governor is a little bit more moderate, you know, where he takes some of those votes. So people are really talking about this. How would Kobach counter that? Because there is quite a difference between the two.
Either of our candidates will beat both Democrats on the ballot.
Amen.
On the news the other day, I was listening to a representative of the Koch brothers speak about how they support candidates. They say they don't do it on a political basis, they do it on a policy basis, but yet they weren't able to, he wasn't able to verbalize the criteria they use in policy. Do we have any concern about the Koch brothers? Have they just kind of gone off the deep end and lost it, or
no,
are
absolutely
they
not.
making
They're a vital part of the Wichita economy, definitely, and the state of Kansas, and the Republican Party owes them a huge favor. I mean, the fact that they pursue policy agendas that they want, I don't know how you can hold that against them.
But they still need, I mean, saying policy, that sounds good, but what is the criteria? What policy? What is the, what is your criteria that policy, either you support that policy or you don't? And to, give money to both candidates, what's the point? I mean, you've got policy all over the place, so
I'm not dumb enough to speak on behalf of the Koch brothers.
Thank you. How as a party do we counter the message that is always out there about the Democratic agendas, free health care for all, or either low-cost health care for all? And the list just goes on, free education, if you were a teacher, and it just continues. And then, of course, if you oppose that because you know that free education you're not going to pay taxes on for the next 50 years of your life, it seems like we're not good at getting that message out.
So a couple of things. Look around the room. That's who's paying for that. It's your tax dollars, and people realize that, and that's why these policies aren't national policies. I mean, we have literally every single office. Again, the Kansas House, the Kansas Senate, the governorship, all statewide, the United States House, United States Senate, and the White House. I understand that there's a little bit of a buzz or whatever you may want to say about it, but it's not winning. So, it's a fringe part of their party, and unfortunately, it's taken the entire thing hostage. So it's certainly dangerous for the future of America. It's pretty scary to hear people talk about that stuff, but they're not really winning. So not too worried about it at the moment.
I'm going to chime in on this one just because we had a lot of conversation about this in my campaign. And you're right, that's out there on the fringe a little bit, but the message that resonates with people of intelligence is that somebody has to pay for it. And that ends up being you and I. And when you pass billion-dollar tax increases, people don't like that, let alone this idea of universal health care at a cost of $37 trillion. And if you ask Ocasio or whatever her name is, there's no difference between billions and trillions anyway. So again, I come back to, those that have any common sense recognize that it has to be paid for by somewhere. And unless you want to raise your hand to be the one to start writing those checks, that's why the conservative message continues to resonate here in Kansas.
I'd just like to say thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm always impressed at the turnout here in this group. It's pretty awesome. I wish we could emulate it statewide in other counties, and we're certainly going to try to. And then to just make sure and get out there and help Ron Estes, vote for Ron Estes, and vote for Republicans on November 6th.
Jim Joice. Let's give him a big hand.